Welcome back to another episode of Red Hawk Media. Today we continue on with our series in After Effects of some basic animations. And to begin with, again, rapid style fire here. We're going to go through a lot of skills very quickly, so try to keep up. First one, I wanted to cover blurs. Actually, how to create a blur, how to get rid of a blur, and how to keyframe it. And again, keyframes, just a reminder, you've got a starting keyframe and a stopping keyframe. So one to begin the animation and one to end it. So let's start with our text here, which you can see I already added some text into my composition, Red Hawk Media. And from the previous tutorial here, we added some basic stuff onto it, so it fades in, fades out, animates, and then animates out. So now we're going to add some blur. The beauty of blur is that we can go into blur and sharpen, and we can add on a Gaussian blur there, and we can dial it up and dial it down. That would be one way, so I could double click on this while I've got my layer selected, just added on a Gaussian blur. And then if I look at my effects panel up here now, unlike the other animation presets that we previously have been working with, I can see Gaussian blur. Okay, and what that's going to allow me to do is right now blurriness is set at 0. We're going to go ahead and keyframe that. So we're going to come into where we want to actually see our text, which is right about here. And I'm going to create my keyframe, my first one. Okay, and then I'm going to back it up to the beginning, and I'm going to make this super blurry so that we can't see anything that's going on. Alright, and as it comes in, you're going to see it becoming clear. And now, before it completely animates out, I'm going to, let's see, right about in here, we're going to have it start blurring again. And we're going to click our, add that keyframe on there. So we got another one. Alright, and then we're going to go to the end, and we're going to add on a whole bunch of blur again. So that way, as it goes out, you can see it's blurring on the way out too. So that blur is on everything that is the text right now. Okay, so you can see that effect. Wanted to cover that really quickly. I meant to do that with the opacity in the previous tutorial, but now we got that out of the way. Now we can talk some 3D. Okay, 3D, we're going to start off with classic 3D to begin with, and we're going to keep it really basic. All right, and what we want to do is we're going to start with some, first off, how to make a layer 3D. Let's begin there. So if we take a look into our layers, okay, I've got the Red Hawk Media text layer, and then we've worked with the eyeball already, and now we're going to actually work with the 3D button. So you see this little cube here, turns your layer to 3D. We can check that. And now we've got this little icon that pops up here, which is going to allow us to move this in 3D space. So just a quick recap of 3D space. We've covered this before in our Photoshop tutorials, but we've got X, Y, and then Z movement of this. And anytime I have my moving tool selected, I can take this and I can push it back in Z space, or I can bring it forward in Z space. Okay? Same thing, I can grab the X coordinates here and I can slide it that way, or I can grab the Y coordinates and slide it that way. So let's go ahead and bring this right about in here. Now, we're going to create a really simple movement here to begin with, and it's going to hinge on a rotation. Now, when I drop down my text layer over here, you're going to see that there's some new features that are in there now that I've checked this as 3D. So geometry options, transform, material options, there's a lot of fun stuff that's in here. If I go into, and actually let's go out here for a moment. I thought I might have this on ray traced. I'm going to switch this back to classic 3D because by default that's what you're going to start with, and that's what we want to start with. You don't have to do this. It's probably already classic 3D on yours, so no worries. Okay, let's take a look at this. And I thought we were seeing a few extra options that we shouldn't have. So now you'll notice we only have material options in here as opposed to the geometry options as well. So now let's go ahead and transform this a little bit. And this process works identical to everything else that we've done. So I'm going to roar through it here. On our text, we're going to go to transform actually underneath the Red Hawk Media layer, underneath your text layer. And you can see that now we've got an X rotation, a Y rotation, and a Z rotation. So it's not just X and Y anymore. Let's start with an X rotation. For instance, let's say that this is the starting point or the stopping point for our rotation. So just like everything before, we're going to click the keyframe. Okay, and actually let's go to the Y rotation here. We'll do that one first. And So now I've created the keyframe. That's the stopping point. I'm going to back it up a little bit just to the point where it becomes not blurred anymore. And right about in here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add on 90-degree rotation. Okay, so if I put this exactly at 90, and if you can't get it exactly on there, just type in minus 90. Okay, and now it should be completely and totally sideways here, so that we're not seeing it. The beauty is as it comes on, it's going to rotate out like that. Okay, so you can see how that works. Now we could have the same exact effect here. Let's have it as it's fading out. Let's have now a Z rotation. Z rotation. Let's go with the next rotation. Let's go with that. That's our stopping point. And then at the end of all this, before it completely starts to fade away, we're going to have it rotate up. So I'm going to have it just, let's rotate it. Yeah, let's rotate it down. So we're going to put it exactly down to, so it's completely and totally flat, which will be 90 degrees. Okay, so now you can see we've got two rotations. It rotates in on the y-axis, and now it's rotating on the x-axis. And that is your standard classic 3D rotations there. Okay, pretty simple. Now, you may have noticed that it's rotating around our little symbol here. So this symbol is the anchor point right now for all of the rotations. So when it does a Y rotation, it's rotating around this line right here. That's why it's rotating in the center. If you want to change that so that it creates a different kind of rotation, we can use a tool for that. We can go up and use the pan behind tool, okay, otherwise known as the anchor point tool, and we can select that. Now we can come in here, and I'll zoom in here so you can see what's going on. And I'm going to grab my anchor point, hopefully. Grab that, and I'm going to move it. So if you wanted to rotate exactly dead center in the middle, you can do that. If you want it to hinge out here, let's put that out here in the middle. And now, if we go back to our rotations, you're going to see that they have changed dramatically. So now you can see that it's hinging on that left side of Red Hawk Media, and then it's going to actually rotate from the middle left side as well. So that changes things up a little bit. Okay, excellent. So you got a little bit of an idea of classic 3D. Now we're going to take the next step because, I mean, flat text is cool and all that, but now we're going to add on some depth to it. And the way we're going to add some depth, which is otherwise known as extrusion, is we're going to change it from classic 3D to ray traced. And this is what I had it on previously. I use this a lot. Caution, it does slow down your machine a whole bunch. So one of the ways that we can get around that, and it's going to get fuzzy for a little bit here, is I can go into my resolution under my viewer here, and I can change the resolution so it's not processing at full all the time. So if I put it down to third, I'm going to be able to make changes, and the changes are going to be seen much quicker than what they were previously. So now if I go into my material options, let's just show you how this works. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's in here. Okay, actually I don't want to go into material, let's go into geometry. Okay, go into geometry options, and I'm going to take my extrusion and dial that up. Now if I take my text and I rotate it through my animation, you can see now that it's actually got some depth to it. Okay, now the depth is a little bit hard to see because it's all red and there's no shadows or anything like that going on. So the next step for us to make this look decent is we're going to go ahead and throw in a light, and that's going to react with the 3D, and it's going to bring out a lot of stuff. So I'm going to go up to layer, new, and then light. Okay, and we're going to change this to a standard white light. Okay, and I've got it on a spot so I can rotate it. Click OK, and now, oh, there we go. You can see that this changes up things considerably. Let's go ahead and grab my arrow, right? And I'm going to move this, and you can see that it's going to react with my actual light. Okay, and as I move this around, we're going to have a whole bunch of stuff that's going on here. Now, a couple things on the lights. If you're new to After Effects, we obviously are navigating it according to X and Y coordinates, but I can also take the focus of the light and I can move that around as well. Okay? And then we can move that to whatever. In fact, we can even animate the lights. Same exact kind of like X position move that we did before. I can come in here to transform. I can drop that down. I can say, hey, this is my starting position. Right back. Right about in here we'll have it start. Okay, and we're going to take our starting position off this way, so it's not lighting anything. And then as it goes through the animation, okay, which is just about done right here, it's going to be completely off the other way. So we're going to go position, and we're going to take it on the x-axis. And this, I'm going to have to change a few things. I'm going to slide it along on the x-axis. And then I'm going to take my focus point, and I'm going to change that as well so that it is focusing elsewhere. Let's go ahead and bring that out. Now we've got this simple light animation that's happening here. So it comes in, got that animation going on. You can see everything that's happening there. Okay, and I'm moving it pretty quickly so you're not seeing the actual effect of the light, but you get the idea of what's happening here. Okay, so that's our Ray Trace 3D and a rotation in X, Y, and Z for classic 3D. We added on a blur, and for the sake of keeping this tutorial a little bit shorter, we're going to cut it off here. There's going to be some additional basic After Effects animations that I'm going to continue in the future, so feel free to stop back. And thanks again for joining us for another episode of Red Hawk Media. Bye.